All right, in this unit, we are going to be solving for x. This first lesson here, we're going to be talking about solving for x taking the square root of stuff. So we're going to use square roots to solve for x, and we're going to be solving quadratic. All right, just starting off, I just want you to think about when we have x squared equals 9, we can get x alone by just taking the square root of both sides. We need to get x alone, so we want to cancel this square. And the way to cancel a square, or an exponent, is to take a root. And if it's a square, we're going to take a square root. So we're going to cancel this square by taking the square root of both sides. Now something you got to remember though is anytime you take the square root of a square, there's always going to be two answers. So in this case, everybody always knows x equals 3 when I take the square root of 9, and they usually forget that x can also equal -3, because if I were to put this back in the original problem, what number squared equals 9? 3 squared equals 9, but so does -3. -3 times itself also equals 9. So anytime you take the square root of a square, there's always two answers, a positive and a negative. Using that same concept, if I say x squared equals 25, and I say what number squared equals 25, to get the x alone, we would take the square root of both sides and get 5. But 5 isn't the only answer. -5 also works. So I would get x equals positive and -5. This is another way you can write it with little plus minus right here, meaning that there's the positive 5 as the answer and also -5 is another answer. Long story short, anytime you take the square root of a square, always two answers, the positive and the negative. So as soon as I take the square root of a square, stop right there and make two answers. Whether I write it like this, two separate answers, or I put the plus minus and go from there. Okay, let's jump into one that's a little more complicated we have to actually solve for. All right, this one we're just adding a tiny little piece to this. I still have x squared minus 6 equals 10. I need to get the x alone, and I need to cancel the square, and I need to cancel the 6. If you remember PEMDAS, is kind of the acronym that lets us know the order in which to simplify things, or to make things more simple. The order in which to simplify things. When you're simplifying, we'd start with parentheses, then we go to exponents, then we go to multiplication and division, then we go to addition and subtraction. But when you're solving, you have to do that backwards. So when I'm trying to get x alone, I first have to cancel addition and subtraction, then I cancel multiplication and division, then I cancel exponents, and then I cancel any parentheses or anything in parentheses. So this squared right here is actually one of the last things I need to cancel. I have to first cancel this subtraction first. So to cancel this, I would add 6 to both sides of the equal sign. Now I'm ready to cancel this exponent. It's a square, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And as soon as I take the square root of a square, I know there's two answers. So I need to say x equals +4 and x equals -4. If you want to write it together, you could have said x equals plus or -4. I kind of discourage you from using this for right now, because when we start solving where there's parentheses involved, we kind of want two separate pieces so we can work on each individual piece. And this is a little messier, so maybe try to stay away from that for right now. Let's try another one. All right, slowly getting a little more complicated. We got 3x squared minus 10 equals 38. Trying to get the x alone, so I need to cancel the 3, the exponent, and the 10. First, I need to cancel any addition and subtraction. So I'm looking at this, we need to cancel the 10. So I add 10 to both sides. So I have 3x squared equals 48. Now I cancel the 3, good. So I divide both sides by 3 because this right here was saying 3 times, and to cancel that we divide. So I divide both sides by 3. I get x squared equals 16. Now I have my x squared, so I'm going to cancel that by taking this square root. That goes away, and there's two answers, a positive and a negative 4. All right, let's look at one that has parentheses in here so you can kind of see how that changes things up. So let's take a peek at that real quick. All right, starting to look a little more complicated. Same deal, we have to first cancel any addition and subtraction signs. The problem though is that this minus 4, I can't do until later because it's inside of parentheses. And parentheses is the last thing. So anything inside the parentheses I can't touch, I can't do anything to until I get to the p. So first we'd cancel the 6. So let's subtract 6 from both sides. Now we will cancel the 5. Again, we can't do anything inside the parentheses until later, so let's cancel the 5. So we divide both sides by 5. All right, here's where it starts getting a little tricky, and you got to be careful. The next thing is outside the parentheses is this exponent. So we're going to take the square root, but right here, you got to be careful. Right here is where I want to take the square root of both sides and get two answers. I don't wait till the very end until I get x equals whatever the number is, and then put a positive and a negative. Right here, I'm taking the square root of a square, so this has two answers. So I'm going to have to be careful. I have x minus 4 equals, okay, the square root of 9 is 3, so I need it to equal a positive 3, and then I need to copy it down and make it equal to a negative 3. So I have x minus 4 equals positive 3, and x minus 4 equals negative 3. Notice that I don't have the parentheses anymore. That's because I just took the square root of the square, and so nothing is there for the parentheses to do anything. The parentheses just are gone. Now we have two pieces. One of them equals positive 3, one equals negative 3, and let's get x alone. So I add the 4 to both sides. So on this example, we're going to get x equals 7. So there's that answer, x equals 7. On this one over here, I'm going to add 4 to it, and I get x equals 1. So I have two answers, x equals 7 and x equals, x equals 7 and x equals 1. Notice that the 7 and the 1 are not opposites. It's not like the answer was negative 7 and positive 7. And that's because this parenthesis moved things a little bit, so they weren't just opposite answers. A little shaky. Let's try another one here. We are solving quadratics, or things with x squareds in them, using square roots. We're taking square roots, noticing that two answers pop up. Okay, here we go. This one's looking a little more complicated. Don't be intimidated. Sometimes you get big, long, weird, ugly problems. Just start with one little piece. All I know is that I have to cancel the addition and subtraction. Okay, don't get intimidated. First thing, we need to cancel the 10. We don't touch the 3 because it's in the parentheses. So let's add 10 to both sides. So I have 4 parentheses 2x plus 3 squared equals 324. Now I need to cancel the 4, so I'm going to divide both sides by a 4. So that gives me 2x plus 3 squared equals, kind of hard to divide that in our head. Well, sometimes it's easy. 32 divided by 4 is 8, and then 4 divided by 4 is 1, so I know it's an 8 and then a 1, 81. Now we take the square root, okay? Anytime you take the square root, there are two answers. So right here I need to say 2x plus 3 equals positive 9, 2x plus 3 equals negative 9. Okay, now I have two different problems that I need to solve. Just chip away at it. Subtract the 3, and I get 2x equals 6. Divide by 2, and I'm going to get x equals 3 for this one. I'm going to write it over here. X equals 3. There's one of my answers. This one, subtract the 3, and I get 2x equals negative 12. Divide by 2, and I get x equals negative 6. There's my other answer. Okay, you kind of get the pattern there. The big key, just make sure that I'm using PEMDAS, going backwards when I'm solving. Anytime I take the square root of a square, it always equals 2 different answers. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Let me know if you need any help, and I will get back to you as quick as I can. Have a great day.